United States Independence History. The United States Declaration of Independence is the pronouncement adopted by the Second Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on July 4, 1776. The declaration explained why the 13 colonies at war with the Kingdom of Great Britain regarded themselves as 13 independent sovereign states, no longer under British rule. With the declaration, these new states took a collective first step toward forming the United States of America. The declaration was signed by representatives from New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The Lee Resolution for Independence was passed by the Second Continental Congress on July 2 with no opposing votes. The Committee of Five had drafted the declaration to be ready when Congress voted on independence. John Adams, a leader in pushing for independence, had persuaded the committee to select Thomas Jefferson to compose the original draft of the document, too, which Congress edited to produce the final version. After ratifying the text on July 4, Congress issued the Declaration of Independence in several forms. The declaration justified the independence of the United States by listing 27 colonial grievances against King George III and by asserting certain natural and legal rights, including a right of revolution. Its original purpose was to announce independence, and references to the text of the declaration were few in the following years. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence inspired many similar documents in other countries, the first being the 1789 Declaration of United Belgian States issued during the Brabant Revolution in the Austrian Netherlands. By the time that the Declaration of Independence was adopted in July 1776, the 13 colonies and Great Britain had been at war for more than a year. Many colonists saw the coercive acts as a violation of the British Constitution and thus a threat to the liberties of all of British America, so the First Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia in September 1774 to coordinate a response. John Adams, a strong supporter of independence, believed that Parliament had effectively declared American independence before Congress had been able to. Despite this growing popular support for independence, Congress lacked the clear authority to declare it. Delegates had been elected to Congress by 13 different governments, which included extra-legal conventions, ad hoc committees, and elected assemblies, and they were bound by the instructions given to them. For Congress to declare independence, a majority of delegations would need authorization to vote for it, and at least one colonial government would need to specifically instruct its delegation to propose a Declaration of Independence in Congress. In the campaign to revise congressional instructions, many Americans formally expressed their support for separation from Great Britain in what were effectively state and local declarations of independence. A few came in the form of jury instructions, such as the statement issued on April 23, 1776, by Chief Justice William Henry Drayton of South Carolina, "The law of the land authorizes me to declare." On the same day that Congress passed Adams's radical preamble, the Virginia Convention set the stage for a formal Congressional Declaration of Independence. Support for a Congressional Declaration of Independence was consolidated in the final weeks of June 1776. Only Maryland and New York had yet to authorize independence toward the end of June. Political maneuvering was setting the stage for an official declaration of independence even while a document was being written to explain the decision. On June 11, 1776, Congress appointed a Committee of Five to draft a declaration, consisting of John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, Robert R. Pennsylvania and South Carolina voted against declaring independence. The New York delegation abstained, lacking permission to vote for independence. The remaining 9 delegations voted in favor of independence, which meant that the resolution had been approved by the Committee of the Whole. On July 2, South Carolina reversed its position and voted for independence. Congress next turned its attention to the committee's draft of the Declaration. The wording of the Declaration of Independence was approved on July 4, 1776 and sent to the printer for publication. There is a distinct change in wording from this original broadside printing of the Declaration and the final official engrossed copy. Independence amounted to a new status of interdependence. The United States was now a sovereign nation entitled to the privileges and responsibilities that came with that status. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without, and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. The British have produced such conditions and, by necessity, the colonies must throw off political ties with the British Crown and become independent states. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name, and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare, that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain, is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. The first and most famous signature on the engrossed copy was that of John Hancock, President of the Continental Congress. 2 future presidents, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, and a father and great-grandfather of 2 other presidents, Benjamin Harrison V., were among the signatories. Historians have often sought to identify the sources that most influenced the words and political philosophy of the Declaration of Independence. By Jefferson's own admission, the Declaration contained no original ideas, but was instead a statement of sentiments widely shared by supporters of the American Revolution. Jefferson's most immediate sources were 2 documents written in June 1776, his own draft of the preamble of the Constitution of Virginia, and George Mason's draft of the Virginia Declaration of Rights. The declaration became official when Congress voted for it on July 4. Signatures of the delegates were not needed to make it official. The handwritten copy of the Declaration of Independence that was signed by Congress is dated July 4, 1776. Various legends emerged years later about the signing of the Declaration, when the document had become an important national symbol. After Congress approved the final wording of the Declaration on July 4, a handwritten copy was sent a few blocks away to the printing shop of John Dunlap. William Whipple, a signer of the Declaration of Independence who had fought in the war, freed his slave Prince Whipple because of his revolutionary ideals. The official copy of the Declaration of Independence was the one printed on July 4, 1776, under Jefferson's supervision.